and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat.
They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension and everything and the drama.
How dare! Look at this! How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast, the Christmas edition. My name's Sean. Welcome here. We got Chris with me tonight. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm well. Just got back home about an hour or so ago. And yeah, my cross-province travels for work is always an adventure. But I was able to get home in time to do this episode. So go team.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, for busting your ass home so you can do this. And then next week, you're going to be out here in Calgary. We're going to be going to a Calgary Wranglers versus Abbotsford Canucks game. Looking forward to that. That's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be we got a group of 8 guys going.
Boys' night out. 4 Canucks fans, 4 Flames fans. I think it might get a little rowdy.
Just a little bit. So yeah, well, looking forward to that. But we got to get through Christmas and all the presents and all the food before them, which will be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, let's get into the nitty gritty here with the Canucks talk. I guess the big news this week would be another healthy scratch for Andrei Kuzmenko. Where does this go from here?
I mean, as long as Kuzmenko is showing, like, as in terms of like within the room, like with Tocchet's direct relationship with the player, as long as he's showing that he has a give a shit meter for what Tocchet's trying to ingrain in him and that there is some progress being made, this can happen from time to time. Hopefully he eventually learns from it in the same way that he kind of did with Dakota Joshua and Niels Höglander. Obviously you don't want this to be, to continue on longer than necessary, but if it takes a couple of games to actually ingrain into Kuz that he needs to, forecheck a little harder and maybe, be a little bit harder to play against on the defensive side of things, then maybe that's just the cost that it'll take. And I know guys like Friedman have been talking about interest from other teams and whatnot. As long as it's not reported that the Canucks are shopping him, I'm not going to listen too much to that noise.
It's just GMs trying to do their job and knock on any opportunity that could potentially be there. I don't think they're shopping him.
Rutherford said that they're going to field all calls that they get, but yeah, it's not like they're the ones initiating said calls.
No. And yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I think this isn't ideal. He's just signed. He's on year 1 of this 2-year deal that he signed in the offseason. That's got a good cap hit. You don't want that sitting on your bench. You don't want that on the 4th line. But this is a long-term process here. And I think anyone asking the team to trade him, demanding the team to trade him, expecting the team to trade him, I think is an overreaction. This is, like I said, it's a long-term process here. You have a player who came over from the KHL in his mid-20s. So he doesn't know the North American game quite as well as some players who came over from Europe earlier in their career. He's probably got he scored high 30s in goals last year, but he needs to, but that was under Bruce Boudreau for most of it, where wasn't as much expected of him in terms of structure and details. So, and he's just learning that, and I don't, like I said, I don't think it needs to be a panic, a Chicken Little panic moment for the team, the fans, or anything like that. I think this is just what to expect from a player who hasn't played under as structured a system as Rick Tocchet has the Canucks playing right now in his pro career. And he's
to a certain degree, it's no different than what Podkolzin's doing. It's just that they can easily send Podkolzin down to the AHL.
Yeah, with Kuzmenko's age and contract, they can't do that. So it just you need to find other ways to do it. Yes, I think we would all much rather see him in the lineup on Petey's wing on that line in a prominent
trending towards 40 goals again. Yeah.
Yes, but it's baby steps right now. And if we have to go through a few of these healthy scratches, and then he gets it by the end of the year, and he helps going into the playoffs and then into next season, this works. And I think I'm just over this overreaction that you see every time something like this happens. Oh, what's wrong with him? Oh, what are they going to do with him? Oh, the asset management and the cap and all this. No, like, just calm down.
Canucks social media will Canucks social media. It's just what they do.
To paraphrase Tyler from our intro, you need calm down. We got to calm down here a little bit. It's not the end of the world. And he's made comments in the past after games talking about how he needs to be better, and I feel like there is a buy-in there. And we'll see where things go here, but it's not time to panic. It's not time to make rash moves to trade him. Also, what are you going to get back for him in today's NHL, where the cap is
where everyone's cap strapped?
Yeah, the cap is causing so many moves not to be made. What are you getting back from him? You're either getting back another struggling forward on a deal. Is that forward going to have the same ceiling as a Kuzmenko? I'd argue probably not. You're not going to get a defenseman for him, let alone a right shot defenseman, which the Canucks need. So if you're gonna make a trade, and you're talking and you want to deal with asset management and getting the best return, it's not going to happen this offseason, this current season. That's going to be an offseason move when the cap goes up and teams have more flexibility, not only with that cap jump, but with the offseason overages that are allowed.
Yeah. So keep on going with your point. This is not professional podcasting, but given the fact that there's only two of us, Bowie's getting up to shenanigans. So I'm just going to be off screen. But I'm still here.
Damn it, Bowie. But continuing on with that, I really think that it's in a better, if you want to talk about asset management and you want to talk about making sure that you're not selling low on a player, you're not selling Kuzmenko. You're not trading Kuzmenko at this point. You need to find a way to rehabilitate his value if you want to trade him. You need to find a way to rehabilitate his value to the team and hopefully find a way to get him back into a top 6 role on this roster and get him back producing, even if it's not to a 35 goal pace. Even if it's just 20 goals this year. From this point on, if he gets to 20 goals, that's going to be valuable for the Canucks.
Yeah, for sure. All
right, and then this past weekend, the Canucks had 2 games, back-to-back games on the weekend. Both afternoon starts. Saturday in Minnesota, Sunday in Chicago. Had a brain fart there. I was like, Nashville. Wait, no, that was last night.
Yeah, I think that was Tuesday. Yeah, that was yesterday. All these things blend together.
Right now, yes, they do.
And it's only going to get worse moving into Christmas.
But those afternoon games, especially for West Coast teams, when you go to the East and play afternoon, like they were, what were they? Were like 11. The Saturday game was an 11 o'clock Mountain start, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Either that or it was 11 our time, noon your time, or something like that. But
yeah,
early for us West Coast folk.
It's a morning start for the Canucks either way.
Yeah.
Right. So your routine is completely thrown off. Your sleep schedule is completely thrown off.
Morning skate? What morning skate? Unless it's at like 6 a.m.
So it's going to be tough for you to get up and start those games on time. The Canucks didn't. They did not start those games on time. But they managed to find a way to get 3 out of 4 points in those 2 games. You got a back-to-back where you lose in overtime in a shootout, in a very boring overtime and shootout to the Minnesota Wild, or Minnesota Mild, because they're just back to the
boring trap game.
The back to old trap wild crap. And then you go into Chicago. You've got that whole thing, the history with the Canucks and the Hawks. You've got Bedard there. They still didn't start the game off as quickly as you would have liked, but they found a way to win it. I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. I know it wasn't pretty. I know it was frustrating to watch a lot of the time, but I think they deserve they deserve the credit for scraping out 3 out of 4 points in those games.
Yeah, they're historically bad on those like East Coast matinee trips that they tend to do once a season. So props to them for that. And I also appreciated the fact that Canucks social media played a little fun with the fact of you can find Canucks fans everywhere when you're on the road. And it was the Chicago game. And the 4th picture in that tweet was Bedard.
That was well played.
He isn't exactly shy about his Canucks fandom growing up. So I found that a little amusing. Yeah.
And then the other news was the Canucks did made another trade. We talked about how the cap strap league is tough to make trades, but Patrick
Allvin is the exception because this is trade number 6 since training camp.
6, yeah. Although this one was more of a minor league trade, trading Jack Studnicka to the San Jose Sharks for defenseman. I've already forgotten his first name, but Sichik, who's making his Abbotsford debut, or at least Abbotsford debut tonight, and a 6th round pick. Hey, we accumulated a draft pick, Chris.
Instead of trading them away. What do you know? Actually, I think that's more of a misnomer where Canucks fans just freak out whenever we trade a draft pick, period. Because if you look at the balance sheet of since Allvin took over, I want to say we may have given one more draft pick away than we've gotten back. So, it's not like we're just bleeding draft picks left and right. It's actually quite balanced. It's just Canucks fans freaking out would make you think otherwise.
That's very true. I believe it definitely is more of a freak out for the sake of freaking out, regardless of the facts. So,
to do due diligence, I'll ask the same question that I asked in our group chat when the trade first got announced. Sean, you're kind of the more of the in-depth, know a little bit more stats than I do, that sort of thing. So tell us a little bit about this new defenseman we acquired and where he kind of projects moving forward. Just because I don't think a lot of people are going to recognize his name.
Yeah, well, Nick Chisek, I know I'm butchering it. So
Dollywall it. Dollywall it.
I'm definitely dollywalling it. He was he's a left shot defenseman, 6'3", so another big body that the Canucks seem to be wanting to build up on the blue line.
If you look at those playoff teams that go deep, they have fucking pillars in the back end. Alvin's clearly learning from that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, 6'3", 201 pounds, listed as per EliteProspects.com, from Winnipeg, Manitoba. They say he's part Turkish, so,
or at least European at the very least.
Yeah. But yeah, he was the captain of the Portland Winterhawks in the 2020-2021 season. That's the only real season in his WHL career where he put up any sort of semblance of production. With 21 points in 24 games. Before that, he had 14 and 63, 13 and 44. So you're not looking at a point producing defenseman. He played 53 games for the Barracuda in 21-22 and put up 25 points. He played 16 games for the Sharks last year, putting up 4 points. Yeah, I think he's just a big physical defenseman that the Canucks picked up.
Is he, like, obviously he's not really offensively talented, but would you call him like a defensive defenseman, or is he kind of that somewhere in between?
I don't exactly know, unfortunately. I'm just going based off of some points and all that. So he's going to be more of based off of that, he's going to be more of a stay-at-home defenseman with the size. He should be physical. We'll see where this goes. It's most likely they got a spot for Jack Studnicka to play with the San Jose Barracuda, and then got Chiswick, who's a project. He may turn into something, he may not, but they also got a 6th-round pick out of that too. So it's just adding depth to the.
Wasn't Studnicka higher than $1 million on his cap hit? So I think if anything, it's partial cap savings.
Well, the amount of the cap savings they would have off of him would be, I don't think, is anything.
Like, I'm not saying over $1 million in cap savings, but I think it might have worked out to like $500,000 or $750,000 in cap savings. No? Okay.
Not really, no.
No. Okay.
Because I think Studnicka was making close to $1 million, and the amount of money you say, like the amount of money you can bury, is about that right now.
Fair.
With the cap. So it's Dylan with the comment: is this ceiling Kyle Burrows? Maybe. I think that could be it. Like a 6th, 7th defenseman, physical. I could see that. I think that is probably your realistic spot for that. And then I'm not sure what else you're gonna get out of him other than just maybe some good, solid AHL minutes, which is valuable for a team. I think people forget that not making sure that your AHL team is good so that you can develop your players properly is very, very important. So just adding depth and adding a solid defenseman there has a lot of value for a team.
Yeah.
All right. And then, it is Christmas, Chris.
You don't say.
So,
it's we're only 5 days away from it.
Yeah. What would your Christmas Canucks wishes be?
Playoffs. I think playoffs.
Okay.
It's been long enough.
You need the building blocks, Chris. Like in terms of
sustained success, less regression.
What do the Canucks? Christmas wishes do the Canucks need? Would the Canucks want to help them get to the playoffs and have that sustained success?
A reliable number 4 defenseman that is preferably right-handed.
That's a good one. One of the ones I was thinking of is just the last few games, the penalty kill has been better. But if they can get the penalty kill out of the bottom third of the league, that will go a long way as well. I think just more penalty kill improvement. And the other thing, a long-term PD contract.
Yes. Hopefully less than 12 million. AAV, I should say.
Yes.
But the fact that he's cooled off for a while, I think that probably works better in terms of negotiating from the Canucks side of things. Because if he had kept up that October production, oh boy.
Yeah. Give me a second here. Oh. But like he's still like right up there in points though, right? He's
making up with it in more like quiet assists or the occasional goal. Whereas October, he was right up there with Quinn Hughes and JT Miller and just being like a scoring powerhouse.
Yeah, he's got 13 goals, which has him tied for 34th in the league. And he's got 41 points, which is tied for 7th in the league. So it's like he's cooled off, but he's still a top 10 point producing player in the league.
Yeah, it's slower but consistent scoring, but I'd say even more consistent in the sense of being more like a playmaker and getting those assists in.
Yeah, and then also for PD, they are getting one more sort of top 6 winger. Will go a long way. That could be Kuzmenko, as we were talking about earlier, but that could be someone else as well. Chris? Uh-oh. Oh.
Sorry. The boy is being a menace, so I'm sorry I have to go off screen again.
Bowie. Oh my God. All right. But yeah, it is. But yeah, I just find it hilarious that like there's so much consternation with how PD's been playing of late that it's just been like you look at it and he's still 7th in the league in points, tied with McDavid, tied with William Nylander, ahead of Mikko Rantanen, ahead of Jack Hughes. Like, what do you? I don't know what are the what are these over the top expectations for PD? Is he supposed to be a 2-point per game player?
He's supposed to be better than Austin Matthews. Come on.
I mean, he has more points than Austin Matthews. So it's just like, what? No, but yeah. Is there any?
Yeah, that's your big wish for the Canucks is the PD contract.
PD contract. Get that. You get that, and a lot of things are going to fall into place after that.
Yeah.
You've got Philip Hronek, who's probably number 2 on the Canucks priority list to get signed. I'm not sure how long term it will be, but if he gets signed for at least 3 years, that'd be nice.
Yeah, it depends on how much cap they can free up. And actually, it's going up, what, like 3.75 or 4 over the offseason?
Well, 4, I think. Yeah.
So that'll help with Hronek's raise because he's definitely going to get a bigger number than he did on his last contract.
Just a little bit.
Especially if they keep him beside Quinn.
Yeah. And then you've got
career points for him.
Yeah, and then you've got Zadorov, who needs a new contract. You've got I think Hoaglander's got 1 more year left on his deal, which is why when you saw some media members talking about maybe they should trade him while his value is high. No.
I hate when media members do that, but obviously they are content creators and they have to come up with something.
Yeah, you got. I think you got Zadorov who needs a new contract. I mean, Tyler Myers needs a new contract, but I'm not sure if that's where they want to go. Ian Cole does, but I think that'll come down to him or Zadorov, and Zadorov's got the age factor on his side there. DeSmith needs a new deal, but who knows whether or not they want to move Silas up next year. But I think probably Dakota Joshua's up there in terms of getting a new deal. I think that he'd be someone that I think out of who they've got up front that needs a new contract with.
Do you think Dakota Joshua is basically the new Mott in the sense of like that third, fourth line grinder that's trying to get like around $2 million a season, sort of? Like, is that what we're expecting?
I don't know. I think if he's smart, he takes something that like is a little bit less for a little bit more security at like say like 1.5
3 years
times
at
like
$1.5 million.
That being said, with the cap going up, a lot of the projections that we're used to over the past few years are gonna go up as well in terms of what players are gonna be wanting. But Sam Lafferty and Teddy Bluger are also players that need new contracts. They're UFAs. So yeah, they've got some decisions to make, but the first domino that needs to fall is Petey.
Like, I know this is going to be as far as the core, there's still a decently sized window as long as they're all here. But as far as the success they're having this season and the amount of guys that are in the last year of their contracts, it almost kind of feels like an all-in year.
No,
which is weird to say.
Close.
Like, no, I'm not saying when I say all in, though, I mean like squeeze as much success out of the season as we can. But at the same question, it's like at what cost? Because if they all are playing well, they're all going to want hefty raises. And we all know that with the Canucks dead cap money, like there's only so much to go around.
Yeah, but like really, honestly, I think when you look at like, yeah, Joshua, but how much are you going to give a third, fourth liner? Lafferty is the same. Bluger's the same. If they want more, you can trust your pro scouting to go out and get replacements, right? The three key players are Petey and Ronick, and then you've got Zadorov, I think, and he's much lower on that than the first two. And then you got a decision to make with Myers, but like he's not going to get another $6 million.
Yeah. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they just let him walk in the off season if they don't move him at the trade deadline. Because with his signing bonus already paid out, the only thing he's really owed, like as far as contract concern at this point, is like what, $1 million. So like even capstrap teams that want to potentially plug something like a defensive, if they want to shore up their defensive depth for a potential playoff run or what have you, and they want to get a big guy, like we were talking about earlier, a big guy for the playoffs, yeah, Tyler Myers might be appetizing at only $1 million of real cash.
Yeah, but he's still at $6 million on the cap, though, right? So that's the issue. And the Canucks are right in there. Like I don't see them being a all-in team, but I don't see them doing anything. I don't see them unless they can make a hockey trade. I don't see them selling off any of these players.
Yeah, maybe I used the wrong wordage. I actually kind of like what Dylan just said in the chat. It's a big push here. Like it just feels like there's a lot of like momentum, and you want to get as much capitalize on this success as much as you can.
Rutherford was on. I can't remember which one of the interviews he was on, but he talked about the window that this team has, and he feels like it's just opening up, and he's got 2, 3, maybe 4 years to do this. This is the beginning of it. This isn't a push all in year. Not like I don't think it's even close. Like you've got Betzer playing really well. Miller's played this damn good for most of his career as a Canuck, and I don't expect him to drop off drastically for another 2-3 years after this. Near the end of the window is when I expect Miller
Like
to drop off.
if he's around 100-point player this season, I imagine it's gonna it's not gonna go off a cliff. It's gonna be gradual. It'll go from 90 down to 80 to like a 72 sort of dip in the next 3-4 year window.
And even then, you still have players like Niels Höglander, who's made massive development this year. You've got if Besser drops off, maybe Kuzmenko steps up again. Like the Canucks
also, we got Lekaramaki coming up the pipeline too.
I think he's a couple years away, but yeah, you got Lekaramaki, and then on the blue line you've got Willander and DPD as well. You've got Arshdeep Baines and Atu Ratu in Abbotsford as well to watch for, as well as Aiden McDonough. And you've also got Linus Karlsson, who has seen a little bit of action here with the Vancouver Canucks, but has spent most of it in Abbotsford. But I think they're high on him as well. They've done a good job building up some depth here, and you have to trust it. And you can't just say let's push all in and trade away future just because everything seems to be going right this year. I think when you look at everything that Alvin has said, everything that Rutherford has said over the past since they've taken over, I don't see them being a rash team that's going to sell assets for a 1-year push.
Yeah, and when I said all in, I didn't mean in the sense of like, let's throw away that first rounder next year for, a rental or what have you. I wasn't suggesting that. It was more just a make the most of this surprisingly good year.
I think that they want to do that, but within reason, right? They're not going to. I don't see them selling. I don't see them trading away a first round pick unless it's for a younger player who has a little more, who they have control over, similar to a Philip Roenick. If they can find another deal like that, I could see them doing it. But they are not going to be trading a first round pick or even a second round pick for a rental. I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe calling it a big push here, like Dylan has said in the comments here, makes a lot of sense. But I just don't see it at they're going to push, but they're not going to sell the farm to do so.
Yeah, like you said, within reason.
Like I said, you got Bluger and Lafferty who need new contracts, but you've also got, like I said, you got Arshdeep Baines coming up. Neil Zaman has started to play really well for the Canucks as well, and they said he's a player that Tocchet is high on.
And
those two players,
now that they have Suter and Bluger too, like he doesn't have to be relied upon to be a centerman either. They can throw him on the wing, which he's also suited to do.
Yeah, but you have options there, and you've got depth in so you don't have to look at this as a make or break year where you're losing. Yeah, there's 8 UFAs, but how many of them are actually? I don't want to say important because I think they're all in their own way a little important to the Canucks' success. But how many of them are in positions that they're not replaceable with the right scouting and right moves in the offseason?
And yeah, even though we let what's his name go to Minnesota, the staff that Alvin has brought in and Rutherford has brought in as far as scouting depth and whatnot, I have faith that they'll find the right people to plug in.
Well, you look at the moves that they've made since taking over and players that they've targeted. Teddy Bluger looks really good. Pia Suters looked really good. Those were signed. Bluger was an early in USA signing. Pia Suter was one later in the summer. They made a trade for Sam Lafferty, and he's fit in perfectly. They understand that that pro scout, how important pro scouting is and how important IDing players that they know can fit into the roster and the system that they have is. You can't just go out and get the most skilled players that don't fit the roles and the system that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we've basically gone through the wish list. I just want to do one last thing before we move on to non-Canucks stuff. But Dylan's last comment, I think, is a really intriguing what if.
Would you give a first for a healthy Chris Tanev with no contract? No, I wouldn't. As much as I love Chris Tanev, that is a dumb move. That the teams that if a team does that, they're panicking and they're hoping for the best.
Okay, so not a first, but what would be a realistic, or maybe not realistic, what would be the most you'd be willing to give up without freaking out for Chris Tanev?
Conditional second, and then maybe one of your mid prospects. Conditional second based off of him playing a certain amount of games and the Canucks going far in say winning 2 rounds in the playoffs.
And do you think Conroy would accept?
I'd give up a prospect like an Aiden McDonough or someone of that ilk. Still young, still developing. You still have something there. It's not like you're trading away like a someone who's sort of out on the very done developing. But it's just I just don't want. I'm not giving up a first round pick for a player who could walk in the summer. Even if it is Chris Tanev, who there's a
lot of history and sentimentality with,
but also his health is a massive issue. He'll be healthy when you trade for him. Is he going to be healthy throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs?
Yeah. The price you pay for that shot blocking monster,
I love him. He's one of my favorite defensemen that I've watched play in the last few years, but it's just not it. That is not a price that makes sense for the Canucks at this point. Fair enough. Could I see a top contender who's looking to play him in a third line, a third pair role, who feels like they need that and they're ready to go and take a run? I could see it happening. Still think it's an overpay, but it's not. I don't think I'd be if it was say Vegas wanted to go another run. Say it's the Rangers or LA. Like I could see them doing it. But for the Canucks, when they're just trying to start their window and having another bullet in the chamber with a prospect coming up, with a first round, and for a potential, even if that prospect gets traded later on, that's still another bullet in the chamber to make the team better in 2-3 years, as opposed to trading it now for a Chris Tanev who, yes, when he's healthy, is one hell of a defenseman, but how healthy is he?
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's just, I love him, but I can't. I would be very, very frustrated if that's the move that they make, and I don't see them doing it.
Yeah, Patrick is a lot more even-keeled and not nearly as desperate as Benning was.
No. All right, have we covered everything Canucks-wise?
I think so, and I was actually going to use a segue of, speaking of desperation.
Yes. The Ottawa Senators fired DJ Smith as their head coach and have brought in Jacques Martin as the to coach at the. Well, I'm drawing a blank on that temporary
interim.
There we go. Interim. The interim head coach.
I mean, as soon as they announced that they were bringing him on the coaching staff, I was like, especially with like the fact that the fire DJ Smith chants from the fans has been going on since early November. So like, as soon as I saw that hiring, I was like, "Yep, there's the replacement. It's just a matter of when." And it happened to be sooner than later.
I don't think he's going to be the long-term replacement. I think.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying long-term, but I just with the fans already going the way they were, just saw it as like writing on the wall of like, yep, he's likely going to be at least a interim replacement while
the pull in case of emergency, replacement.
Yeah.
That's what.
He was behind the break glass.
Last year, as Canucks fans, we were just getting so frustrated, always being in the news, always being one of the first things that was talked about on 32 Thoughts, on any sort of all-encompassing NHL news or podcast or show. This year's Ottawa. You got the whole the sale of it and how public that was and how long it got dragged out. So I think that they were hoping to have it settled in the summer. Then you have the
Pinto thing.
The Shane Pinto suspension, and they also got stripped of a first-round pick for the Dodonov trade fiasco.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about the Dodonov penalty.
Yep. And then because of all that, you had they had to fire their GM, and now they're firing their coach. At this point, all Ottawa wants, all the Senators want, is just to calm this down and focus on hockey.
Like, I know that the owner probably wants his own guys, but I doubt that he wanted to do it in this fashion, where he felt like he had to fire the GM because of incompetency issues when it came to especially the Dodonov penalty. But then the whole Shane Pinto thing and the fact that they didn't see that coming and they basically reacted in the moment. Yeah, it just didn't look good on Dorian. And, yeah, felt like he had to fire the GM then. And then, yeah, you can only go so long when your fans have already turned on the coach. Just ask Brian Burke. Yeah.
Yeah, when they're chant, very rarely do the coaches come back from having the whole arena chanting, or GMs for that matter, the whole arena chanting for them to be fired.
The only person who gets away with that is
Lindy Ruff.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lindy. Yeah.
Yeah, Lindy Ruff. So we're
sorry, Lindy.
But no, But yeah, one of the big moves that they made, along with Jacques Martin going onto the bench, also Daniel Alfredson
is back in the fold.
Yeah, he was helping out with the Senators a little bit here up until this point, and now he gets the big promotion and actual. I don't think he really had a title up until that, and is now an assistant coach.
And his tryout was their European trip to Sweden for the international series.
So yeah, it's. I think that's the big thing, is seeing Daniel Alfredson back on good terms and working with the Senators this year has been a huge positive for them. Mm-hmm. And then but it's just going back to the beginning of the season, and we're talking about which one of the Atlantic teams is going to take the next step with Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa, and somehow Detroit's the only one that's really taken the step.
Yeah, how horrible has that prediction that I made at the start of the season gone?
What was yours? That they would all make it?
I think you were asking for like a bold prediction, and I said that all three of the teams that have been pushing for the playoffs will make the playoffs. And right now, Detroit's the only one who's even sniffing at it.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'm batting 500 on mine.
And didn't I also say that I thought that this is the year that the Oilers finally make it to the Stanley Cup final? To show how wildly wrong a lot of people were this season, just to show how much of a wild card this season has been. I think I recall Merrick saying on the 650 morning show that he picked potentially DJ Smith for coach of the year this season, and Elliot Friedman
picked DJ Smith as the Jack Adams winner in the preseason, and
and Merrick was Granato.
Merrick picked Don Granato from Buffalo, so
yeah.
Neither of them doing well. My bold prediction was that both Tampa and Boston would miss the playoffs. I'm batting 500 on that, but Boston's not missing the playoffs.
I mean, you might get a maybe a repeat of last year where they're dominant throughout the regular season and then just lose steam in that first round.
Yeah,
Especially now that, like, full props to Boston, and I hate the fact that I'm giving props to Boston, but full props to Boston in the sense that they're doing this well without Bergeron and Krejci.
Yeah.
And yes, Dylan, we can't count Edmonton out yet, but they dug themselves a deep enough hole that they have to do some serious sprinting to have any sort of respectability of this season.
They have no room
margin for error.
Yeah, no margin for error at this point. Like, even after going on their nice winning stretch after changing coaches, they've lost 3 straight again. And they are currently sitting. Let's see here, 7 points out of a playoff spot. So that's
like I said earlier in the season,
out with 5 teams to pass.
Yeah, if there's any team that potentially can dig themselves out of that ditch, it probably is the Oilers with 2 of the greatest players in the league, but that doesn't make that monumental feat any actually easier. It's still fucking hard.
Yes, and Edmonton does need a goalie. Although Skinner's played better of late, and they got Pickard as the backup right now. Jack Campbell's just an absolute mess, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Struggling in the AHL.
Yeah, like I know he's had like a long struggle with mental health issues and whatnot. I can't imagine that. Like, if he rebounds professionally from this and has a respectable career after this, I'll give him all the props in the world. But just knowing his history and how shaky he's been in the past, he's always been a hit and miss goaltender. Like, I just don't see him recovering from this. I hate to say it.
No, and I think we're looking at a buyout here soon in the summer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So which will be not great for they'll save them a little bit of money. But
I mean, they're batting 500 as far as picking up big contracts from the Toronto Maple Leafs, but Hyman worked out, but Campbell not so much.
Yeah. And then also happened over the weekend was that Marc-Andre Fleury, in what a lot of the media was dubbing potentially his last trip back to Pittsburgh, did not start, and that got a whole lot of play on social media. Chris, what did you think about that?
To be honest, I don't know if I just wasn't scrolling social media when that happened, but that completely blew past me. I didn't even really notice that it was a thing until I saw it in the agenda. That being said, I do recognize the significance of it. And if this is his last NHL season, yeah, it does feel like a little bit of disrespect. Like, I don't know the characteristics of their new coach in Minnesota and what his line of thinking is, but I feel like that's just something that, out of respect to the longevity that Flowers had over his career, and let's be honest, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, that's where he made his name. That's where he had the most success. Like, show him a little bit of respect, give him that bit of an ego boost, if you will, and let him play his final trip in Pittsburgh.
Well, one thing is, I don't. Fleury has said he's not planning on retiring after this year. So I think part of that was more of he's old, therefore this could be it. Therefore, like, do they have to play him in Pittsburgh every year until he retires?
I mean, considering how, like, it's what, one game a season? Like, I don't think that's a big ask. Like, if it was against a divisional opponent and you're asking for that same expectation, different story. But if you're playing for a Western Conference team and you're playing in that Eastern Conference city once a season, I don't think that's a ridiculous ask.
I think it's the coaches are there to coach to win, right? And the players enjoy winning. And if they feel that that Fleury matches up better versus Boston, who they played the next night, and he did play and they did win. Like,
I guess
I say you go with that.
My alternative perspective on that argument, though, is like Tort starting Lack instead of Lou in the Heritage Classic and the repercussions that had. Like, is this? I'm not saying it's apples to apples. Obviously, it's not. But as far as like drawing a somewhat comparable, I can kind of see like what that did to the locker room and the relationships within the room and that sort of thing. Like, I can see that maybe like not starting Fleury in Pittsburgh might have repercussions in that sort of way. And
it's not like I said, I think it's not like it was his first return back, and all that. Yeah, but I think you also have to make sure that you do talk. Yeah, a lot of that is communication that we aren't privy to. And It sounds like, based off of what I've like, who is Marc-Andre Fleury's agent?
The affable and loudmouthed Alan Walsh.
Did we hear anything from him?
I mean, the fact that you didn't bring that up in the agenda with that, I'm guessing he wasn't, surprisingly, not as vocal as you may have expected. But that's just my prediction.
Yeah, so like if that's the case, if it was really a slap in the face the way a lot of people were making it out to be, then wouldn't Alan Walsh have been out there screaming till he's blue in the face about it?
Or
finding another freaking
posting a photo of a sword going through the back. Or whatever the wild equivalent of that is, a bear attacking him, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was a lot to do about nothing. Yeah, it would have been nice, but like the coaches are there to win games. They're not there to make stories, or this isn't professional wrestling. Like, as much as I want to see some more good professional wrestling, like bits here and there in hockey and professional and other sports, the coaches are there to win. If they feel that Marc-Andre Fleury matches up better against the Boston Bruins than he does against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the way both teams are currently constructed, then that's the way that they should start it.
Okay, so because I missed this, was this a fan-driven story or was this a media-driven story, or both, or what?
Both.
Okay.
So, no, I think it's an interesting. I think it is an interesting discussion. But I do think that we as fans and as well as some of as the media at times get too entitled in terms of expecting these fairy tale stories. When John Hines was brought in to turn around the ship of the Minnesota Wild, and John Hines was brought in to win games. That's his first job, first and foremost. And if he feels that this was a back-to-back situation, if he feels that the matchup's the better, and listens to the goalie coach as well, then I think it's not something that is a slap in the face like many people made it out to be.
Mm-hmm. And like, did Fleury have any comments about it? Like, was he asked about it? Because who knows? Maybe Hines even consulted Fleury. We don't know.
Exactly, right? So I think it was more. It was interesting to see the reactions on social media over the weekend about that.
Yeah. And it's not Vancouver market freaking out about it for once. It's another market.
I mean, it wasn't even just one market. It was just freaking everyone.
I was just saying, like, for once, it's not like a Vancouver market issue.
Yeah. So, Is there anything else in the NHL before we get to one last question?
As far as NHL, I mean, nothing
Or
that
hockey in general.
I mean, nothing's
But,
popping into my head right now. If I think of something, I'll pipe up, but nothing in my head right now.
Yeah, I just want to say, looking forward to watching some World Juniors. Always fun to watch during the Christmas break. And then as well as get back to the dome and watch the Wranglers versus Canucks with you there next week, Chris.
Yeah,
and hopefully we'll see some. We might get a few of us together and do a podcast together next week as well.
I'd be
you
definitely.
and I for sure.
Yeah, I'd definitely be
maybe
down for that.
Maybe we'll drag Devin. We'll find a way to drag Devin into the same room as us as well. So, all right, Chris. I think you said you have the one last question this week. What do you got?
So maybe it's a bit of like a repeat question in the sense of just like no one knows how long this is going to go, but can the Canucks keep this surprisingly sustained success? Because everyone was expecting, they're going to regress. They're going to come back down to earth. They're going to cool off, and the real Canucks are going to show up. Well, right now they're 1 point or 2 points out of first in the league, I believe, is what Dollywell tweeted out last night, if memory serves. So, like, the fact that they're still this dominant, this deep into the season, is this level of success sustainable through the rest of the season, or is this more of a first half flash of the pan and then they kind of peter out and lose all their steam?
I don't think they're going to continue on with this the pace that they're on right now, where they haven't even hit 10 regulation losses yet, and we're at game 33.
So you think there's going to be like a sustained like 500 hockey? Like they had 500 hockey for about like an 8-game stretch, but then they went on a 4-game winning streak after that.
The Canucks have yet to have a losing any sort of sustained losing streak.
It's just been like one off.
Yeah, that's going to happen at some point going forwards here. But I do think that we are going to see them sustain this to a certain extent. When we talked about what Christmas presents do we wish for the Canucks, I say an improved penalty kill. They get an improved penalty kill, that'll mitigate a lot of any sort of offensive regression that they're getting. So I think a lot of what it is, I don't defensively I don't think there's how they're handling things is unsustainable. I think offense
goals against this season, they're still like top 3.
They are, but how they're doing it, I don't think is something that is. It's not like Demko standing on his head and DeSmith.
It's not like Luongo-esque theatrics where he's stealing.
06-07 Luongo, yeah.
I
think what you're seeing is a smart defensive structured team that has been very opportunistic offensively, but has not put together the penalty kill yet. So if they can find a way to put together this penalty kill and get it at the very least sort of middle of the pack, between 15 and 10th in the league. If they can get higher, even better. But if they can get to 15th, between 15th and 10th in the league, because I think that right now they're in like 22nd, 23rd, that's going to go a long way to helping them sustain the start and push for not only the playoffs, but potentially a division title.
Yeah. And let's be honest, like a lot of their PK acquisitions in the offseason have taken turns being injured so far this season. So we haven't really seen them as a cohesive PK team actually be able to generate some momentum on their own as far as like a PK unit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I think that's the big key to the Canucks being able to sustain this success, is to find a way to improve that penalty kill, because I do think that the offense will slow down going into the new year. But if they can continue to be a stingy, smart defensive team, that's going to go a long way to helping making sure that they continue to win more games than they lose.
Yeah. And Trevor, to answer your question in the chat there, that was actually one of the first things that we addressed on this episode. So make sure to rewatch this once it's up on YouTube later or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, he's actually watching on X because we can get those comments here now, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that they brought that in. One of the few things I might give Elon credit for. I hate to say that.
But all right, Chris, thank you for coming again. Thank you for getting your ass home and being able to do this podcast with me.
No problem, man. You know I always like talking hockey with you.
Yeah. Tyler was unable to make it tonight because he had his own hockey. Kevin has been under the weather, so get better soon, Kev. Dev is super busy with the Amped Advantage as well as selling peelers at Christmas.
It's peeler season.
It's peeler season. But like I said, hopefully we'll be able. Chris and I will definitely be doing a podcast in the same room next week when when Chris is in Calgary. Hopefully,
and we're going to do our damnedest to get Devin in there too.
Yes, we'll do our damnedest to get Devin in there too. He's going to the game with us on the Wranglers Canucks game on the 28th with us. So if you were watching the Wranglers game on AHL TV, look for us. We'll be down there in the corner.
Where the Abbey Canucks attack twice.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we will talk to you next week. Bye for now.